Yo, what's going on? My name is Evo. This video is about my process and how I use my gear to make music, and hopefully you guys find this useful. If you do, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If not, it's cool. I just know a lot of you guys have been hitting me up on DMs and asking me, yo Evo man, I want to see your workflow. I want to see how the MPC works. I want to see the ASR. I want to see how the console works. So I'm just making a video for you guys, and yeah, let's get into it. So I got a 2000XL right in front of me. I've already loaded up some drums on everything. I loaded up some samples in ASR just to kind of like kill some time. If you guys really want to see how I go through all that, I'll make another video, but just for time's sake, you know, I just kind of like want to speed it up. All right, so I got my samples loaded up. I got a kick, a snare, and hats, open hat. I also like to duplicate my kicks and snares. So I have a kick on this pad right here, which is a duplicate of this one. Only difference is that one is lower, so I lower the volume on this one, so it just sounds more realistic when you're doing double kicks. Same thing with the snares, and as well as the hi-hats. I have two of the same hi-hats, one's lowered, and of course I leave the open hat the same. This console right here is a Model 12. It's made by Tascam. It connects through USB-C, which allows me to basically use this as an interface. The ASR is also coming out stereo into channel 9 and 10. If I just want to vibe on the MP and not worry about tracking out, I'll go out of the main outs into 7 and 8. But for this video, I'm doing basically 2 to 5 because I don't have any 808s. My 1's usually for 808, 2 is kicks, 3 is snares, 4 is hi-hats, 5 is cymbals, 6 is percussion, and then 9 and 10 is for ASR. Let's jump into it. So if I have basically my kick, snare, all that stuff, if I'm just make a quick little just a little sequence, nothing crazy, so don't judge me if the beat's trash. All right, let's do 87, why not? All right, just something simple. So then I have everything into the ASR. Now the way I'm sampling into the MP, into the ASR, the Tascam has 2 headphones outs. Headphone out 1 goes to the ASR. So if I'm playing something on YouTube and I want to sample something into the ASR, then I would turn the headphone out and that would send signal into the ASR. If I want to sample directly into the MP, I can just turn headphone out 2, which then will go into the MPC. Yeah, so those all go out into the ASR, and then the other one goes into the MP. So depending how which, you know, if I want to just vibe out on the MP, sometimes I just leave the ASR off without me having to worry about cables and switching, all that kind of stuff. I just turn whatever I want to sample from the out of the headphones, and it goes right in to the, again, either the MP or the ASR. So I've already sampled something into the ASR. Now with the ASR, when you sample something in, it pretty much pitches it all the way across. So when I sampled the live bass in earlier, if you notice, I can now play that bass just like how you would on a plugin. The only difference is when I'm sampling something off a vinyl, if you have like a string sound from a vinyl, you basically can use that texture from the actual record, but allows you to play it with your own notes. So you're like basically sampling a one shot, and you're not really using the sample, you're just using the textures from that record, or from, you know, whatever era it was recorded. If you want something from the 50s or the 70s or 80s, you can capture just that tone by capturing a one shot of a piano or whatever, and it lays it all across. You could play chords and whatever. So that's kind of how I use the ASR. I mean, of course I do sample into it, like full chops. Again, right now I'm just kind of doing the bass, and I have this this little vocal sample. Now the ASR MIDI is going MIDI out into MIDI in, and then MIDI in into MIDI out of the 2000XL. That allows me to play the ASR that allows me to play the ASR into the 2000XL. So if I'm playing or if I want to use that, now I have it right in the MP. Sometimes I like to sequence in the ASR. The ASR sequence is a little like funny sometimes. I just like to sequence into the MPs. I could do my drums and everything. But sometimes I like to sequence on the ASR. They're both two different machines. They give you two different feels. So now that I have MIDI channel 1 into MP, what I would do is go to make a new MIDI track. And now I'm selecting input 2. So when I go to 2, that will allow me to add to that. So first I gotta find what key we're in here. All right, so if we add that in, all right, that's just something, you know, it ain't that good, whatever. But just to kind of speed the process up. Now that I have everything basically playing through the MP, what I can do is now really tweak the drums, tweak the sample, everything through the console. So then when I dump everything into Pro Tools, then I'm capturing the sound now and not with the plugins. Because I really don't have many plugins when I'm tracking everything into the MP. If we look at the drums here, I'm just gonna mute the ASR right now. So if I wanted to solo the kick, see, now I can solo the kick. If I want to boost the EQ, bring the snare in. If I want to compress the snare a little bit, if I want to take some of the lows out of the hi-hats and give it a little bit of brightness, I can. So then I go into each track and kind of do what I want to it. If I feel that a signal is too low, I can boost the gain to just get myself, you know, a little bit more gain. So I don't really like to normalize too much. So what I'll do is I will work with the gain to kind of give me that feel. So again, if the snare is a little too low, see, so though, man, this stand, it keeps going down on me. Pause. But yeah. So that will give me that same feel as if you're gonna normalize something, except I'm just boosting the signal through the preamp. Now, I can do the same thing with the ASR. So if we look at the ASR, now if I wanted to say, all right, this sample's got too much low end, I want to take some low end out, I can do that through the console. All right, so then when I hit play, everything I'm not even touching anything on here. Now everything is done on here. This is basically like my DAW. This is where all my my EQ, my compression, my gain staging, and my leveling and panning, it's all done on here. And then sometimes I'll bust everything into this mix fader, which allows me to listen into these monitors right here. Now these monitors are the CLAs. There's basically the new versions of NS10s. They sound just like the NS10s. Super flat, no bass response. So whenever I want to check the mixes, I will check it through that. But for now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to run through this again real quick, because that's pretty much like the process. Is everything is on the MPC. I load up the samples on the drums. I'm sorry, I load all the samples into the drum machine. All the pads get assigned to their destination. So my 808 is always 1, my kick is always 2, my snares are always 3, my hi-hats are always 4, my cymbals are 5, percussion is 6, and then 9 and 10 is the ASR. 7 and 8 is only when I'm just basically vibing out on the MPC. I don't feel like tracking anything out. If I'm just vibing out, I'll just have 7 and 8, but almost like just like a monitoring fader. I just can listen to anything on the MPC. The ASR, it basically, again, this is like my main keyboard that I use. I don't use any MIDI controllers. I don't make music with plugins really. If I do, I can basically run plugins, say like in Pro Tools, and what I'll do is I'll have plugin 1, plugin 2, plugin 3, because the ASR can only fit 8 inputs or 8 tracks. So I can do 8 VSTs, and then I can play, for instance, like a Omnisphere on track 1 and record that into track 1 on here. When I make track 2, I go to track 2, and then I set Pro Tools plugin to track 2. And then at the end, I can dump all of that into Pro Tools. Now, when I'm dumping everything into Pro Tools, it dumps through MIDI. So I have this MIDI, it's MIDI in and out to USB into the computer. Now, whenever I select, what is it on here? All right, so basically I have MIDI clock, input 2. All right, so right now I'm just recording everything in Pro Tools so you guys can kind of hear what I'm doing without getting the speaker feedback. Now, whenever I hit play, it would actually, and I can't do it right now because I'm recording, but whenever I hit play, it would start the MPC. So what I have, as like you can see it right now, I have inputs 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything on the MPC is all right there. And I have this muted right now. There we go. So I don't know if you can see it from there, but every track has its own pad. Now, the two kick pads, those two are all going to track 2. Both snares are going to snare 3. Both hats are going to 4, and then the open hat just stays by itself. Since I can't lower one kick on here, because this is almost like, think of this as you're in your DAW when you bust something out. This is my bus. So I lower the pad of the kick in the MPC. So then when it gets bust out to the fader number 2, it controls both of those. Now, if I do want to say, you know what, this kick wants to be a little lower, I'll do that in the MPC. Because again, both of these are kind of going into that. Now you're kind of limited because you only have 8 outs. So if I'm doing everything, all my drums, by the way, they're all mono. I never do stereo drums because drums are typically mono unless there's some kind of like effect that makes it a stereo. But when it's just that clean and they're super just dry, you know, mostly it's going to be mono. So there's no point of taking up 2 inputs, because I either have 4 stereo or I could do 8 monos. So I do 8 monos to make sure I get full control of the console, the MPC. Of course, the ASR is coming out stereo into 9 and 10. And then I also can add effects. So if I want to add reverb, I can add reverb to the snare. I can add delay, whole bunch of effects I can add on here that will get printed into Pro Tools. Once everything gets printed into Pro Tools, now those effects, the EQs, the compression, all of that is getting printed into Pro Tools. So whenever the engineer, if I'm not mixing the stuff and an engineer gets the stems, then they basically have the compression, the EQ, the reverb that I want. Everything's printed into the track, and all they got to do is kind of like match it with the vocals, whatever they got to do. But I try and really mix everything on here, so when it gets into Pro Tools, it's pretty much like 90% there. The only thing I do at the end is I might do little adjustments with the EQ if I want to still take out a little bit of low end, stuff like that. But for the most part, that's kind of how everything is routed. I also have a TC Electronics, which it's called the Clarity. When I'm mixing, that allows me to check the LUFS. I can check the spectrum of the EQ for the record. I can check pretty much anything I want to see my levels to make sure that everything is hitting where they're supposed to be. But of course, right now it's not on, but that's something that I do use a lot. And yeah, that's honestly a quick rundown of the studio, and it's not even a quick rundown. That's literally my setup, so I'm not really like keeping secrets over here. Like, oh man, I'm only showing you guys the little stuff, and there's like, the secret sauce that I'm not telling you guys. Because that's, to me, the secret sauce in my studio is this right here. The 2000XL and the ASR, it really adds a lot. And if you never use one of these and you do get a chance to kind of like play around with the ASR or the 2000XL, definitely check it out, because it really does something to your sound, and it's super dope. The way it glues things together, the way that it just adds a little something. I can't even explain it, but the warmth and everything that it really gives, it's super dope. Now I do have the 2500 I use the 1000. I have different MPCs that I use on a daily, but sometimes I want to vibe out in the 2000XL for a whole month. Sometimes I want to vibe out just on the ASR. Sometimes I even have the what's it called, the Renaissance. I'll use the Renaissance. That's probably as like modern as I get, because I'm not really a fan of the newer MPCs. I mean, I like the workflow. I've had them, but to me, like, I just kind of, I don't know, there's something about like being able to really dig into the pads and like the limitations. Like I like the limitations because it makes me more creative. When it's too easy, like if I can just hit a button and the sample snap in place and I can warp it, that's cool. I can see why people love using that in FL, Ableton, all that kind of stuff. But for me, being able to like really get down the MPC and the ASR and like take my time, and to me it's like that's just the art of it, you know, and the final product, to me, that's the reward, knowing that, you know, I spent some time, even if I spent an hour or two trying to cut a sample, and what it gives back to me, that's, you know, that's the feeling that I get when I'm using these machines. You know, let me know let me know what you guys think as far as you know, if you have any questions and everything. You know, my bad, I have like just a side camera right here. I have this camera here, but it kept like glitching out on me. So I know it's probably kind of weird, like you just only getting the side of my face. So by the next video, I'm hoping to either get a new camera for the front here, or maybe just take a look into what's happening with this one. If you guys want tutorials, I can really do that. This is just more a signal flow, understanding how this, and this all connect into Pro Tools. And again, I kind of want to just see what you guys think. I want to see what you guys want to see more of. I know you guys watch the cook-ups. If not, you know, I'll stop making these videos. Just let me know so I don't waste my time. You know, I really do enjoy like teaching the producer community, and yeah, you know, let me know what you guys think. And until then, I'm out. Peace.